in the top left-hand corner. All right, up there. And yes, we should be all arriving into the classroom, into the Nearpod. That would be fantastic if we could all be in there. That'd be good. All right, you will still be there from last time, but that's okay. All right, so we jump into the Nearpod YKZS2. That would be fantastic. And we're going to continue on, because the other day we were defining monetary policy. We had a thought about two tools that the government could use to achieve their goals. And one of those tools was monetary policy. And we talked here, what did Emma say? Emma said monetary policy, government policy controls money supply and economy. Yes, good, very good. That was very good, Emma. Well done. Harshna talked about liquidity. That was when we had the conversation about what liquidity meant. And I like what Shanley had to say about actions that central banks take to achieve economic objectives, like stabilising prices. Weren't quite as specific with regards to what they do, actions that they take. Yes, that's good, Kane. Yes. All right. Okay. Oh, here we go. Look at this one. Managing the money supply. The money supply includes, yes, it does, all of those sorts of things. And they use interest rates. Now, this is Hung's answer from, when was it, yesterday, and it's really good, right? It's very full. You'll see that he's included the definition of monetary policy. He's included the two aspects of monetary policy, which is the money supply and the interest rates. And he's given a hint as to what it is that they're actually going to be using it for. So, for example, preventing inflation. So that's really good. So you can feel free to screenshot, keep, right? It's, use that sort of an idea, because when it comes to it and you are thinking about how to explain monetary policy, that's actually a really good way to explain it. Good man. A little bit advanced for IGCSE, but there's no reason why you can't be cleverer than what they want you to be, so long as they can understand it as well. Fiscal policy. Now, fiscal policy is the other one. It's kind of a weird word, but it's all about taxation and spending. So again, just like with monetary policy, there are two sides to it. Taxation, so we're familiar with the idea of taxes. Right? We might actually find them quite taxing. And the idea of expenditure, right? So there's the fancy word there, expenditure, and inside it we see the word spending. So that's the government spending money and the government earning money. And you did that as a table. You did tax revenue and government spending was in the table yesterday. And the aim for the use of taxation and expenditure is trying to increase or decrease the level of aggregate demand, the total demand in the economy. It's that accelerator and brake idea again. We want the economy either to go faster, so we want to increase aggregate demand, or we want the economy to go slower, in which case we might decrease the level of aggregate demand. So as you're aware, the world's kind of in a bit of a state at the moment, pandemic and all. And so part of a lot of government's tools to cope with that situation is this idea about fiscal policy. And they are doing everything they can, increasing the level of expenditure to amounts that, as you correctly worked out when you were doing it yourselves on the table the other day, huge levels of expenditure. And they're also potentially, in some parts of the world at any rate, maybe decreasing the amount of taxation, with the sole purpose of increasing the level of aggregate demand. So what was fiscal policy again? There you go, have a go. 30 odd seconds. Oh, that flew away. There we go. What was fiscal policy all about? What were the two parts to it? And what was it trying to do? Oh, here we go. First answer in. Yes. Brilliant, Emma. Well done, rock star. See what the rest of you can come up with. Fantastic. Yes, indeed, Harshna. Yep, we could be more specific. We could actually say what it is that they're trying to do within the economy, but that's very good. A few more to have a go. Fiscal policy, what was it all about? What were the two parts to it, and what are they attempting to do with the fiscal policy? Good man, Lancelot. Yes, good. We didn't hear about your favourite music, by the way, Lancelot, and you've now arrived, so that means I'm going to quickly just change you to be here. Irina, government taxation aiming at the, yes, good. That's good work, Irina. However, we've only got one of the two tools here listed. So you've got taxation. It would be good to add taxation and spending, right? So it's the government spending as well that's included within fiscal policy. Good. Very good, Abu. Yeah, fantastic. That's exactly right, Emma. Right, Brandon, have a go. Hong, have a go. See what we can come out with. It's good. Oh, that's very good, Brandon. Keep that on file. Right, who are we missing? Hong, you going to have a go? Another 10 seconds. Okay. All right. Shoot, going in here. All right, back in 5 minutes. Okay. No problems at all. Now, fiscal policy. What do we know happens with regards to fiscal policy? So if the government is spending money, so part of its expenditure, what do they spend it on? Well, we know they spend it on healthcare. We know they spend it on defence. We know they spend it on education, housing. They may even use some of their money to repay debts. And you remember you had a look at the table and you looked at income and expenditure and you saw that there were potential deficits that might arise. So at some point they might need to pay that back. So the paying of that back then becomes an expense that they have to pay. And social security, the idea of welfare payments. So if people are unemployed or unable to work for other reasons, there may be a payment, an income from the government for them for that. What does fiscal policy do? How do we actually use fiscal policy? Well, we use it in two ways. So again, apologies, really sorry, the terminology here, but this is the terminology that we need to be able to use. We need to be comfortable with using this, okay? So we talk about fiscal policy as being either expansionary or contractionary. So it is either trying to grow the economy, so expansionary, or it's trying to shrink the economy, so therefore contractionary. So expanding, making it bigger, contracting, making it smaller. So if we're wanting to expand the economy, we use expansionary fiscal policy. That means we're going to use tools like decreasing taxation. We're going to increase government spending with the overall effect, hopefully, on the economy to be an increase in aggregate demand. However, we're going to see that there will be a trade-off, and that trade-off is going to lead to an increase in inflation. And that's going to be one of our other problems that we're going to deal with a bit later. Contractionary policy, so we're trying to shrink, right, reduce the size of the economy. that's when we are going to be doing the opposite. So we're going to be increasing taxation and we're going to be decreasing government spending. The net effect, remember, with the car is you're putting your foot on the brake. You are trying to slow the economy down. So with the effect of this might be to see a decrease in aggregate demand, right, total demand, and then maybe a decrease in inflation. So it's the inflation thing that you're probably most worried about, right? Now, at the moment, around the world, countries are, as we've discussed just before, increasing government spending by a lot, okay, with the hopeful effect that they're going to see an increase in aggregate demand, and they are in a lot of countries. They are now starting to get a little concerned in some parts of the world about inflation, and so maybe in the future they might decide to put their foot on the brake, right? And that's how these policies work. Right, so now it is your turn. This is a close exercise, or fill in the gaps. Have a go, see how many you can get. About 30 odd seconds, see how you get on. Good work, Shanley. On the rest, there we go. Well, good numbers coming out. Well done. Last few to have a go. Good work, Harina. Man, fantastic. All right. Good work, team. Look at that, rock stars. All right, Abu, you're going to finish yours, post yours in. Another 3 seconds.
I'm almost done.
Okay. All right. Now, team, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to stop the sharing for a minute. We are going to jump out of the Nearpod. All right, back into the meet. Now, team, that's good. All right. Now, the other thing to note is that we're going to be, hello, good to see you back. We're going to be needing to use these ideas, the tools that we looked at, right? The expansionary fiscal policy, knowing what that means and how it might have effects on the economy, right? We're also going to be thinking about contractionary fiscal policy and how that might have an effect on the economy. And we will eventually also consider monetary policy as well and the effects that may have, right? And then we start using these tools to try and solve some of our macroeconomic problems. Now, how we're going to do this, I'll jump back into the screen again. Just like this. is I have posted this, which should appear in your classroom, because I told it to. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to use the notes that you've got, your understanding, and also if you need to, ask Dr. Google, all right? And you're going to do this in teams, all right? So, yeah, I know, apologies, I have just set the teams, all right? So if you open up this document, it's called IGCSE Economics Impact of Taxation on the Economy. So this is about fiscal policy and how what the effect of fiscal policy might be. So if we are increasing taxes, right, then we are doing contractionary fiscal policy. If we are decreasing taxes, then we are doing expansionary fiscal policy. But what are the actual overall effects? So what I've done is I've split you into teams. And so here's task one. What is the impact on prices and quantities of goods and services if there's a tax imposed on them? So that should be relatively straightforward. So the team that's going to answer that one, Brandon and Abu, you're going to have a go at that one. Then the impact on economic growth. How is economic growth affected by an increase in income taxes? What about if there was a decrease in income taxes? So you're going to have a go at answering that, Emma and Irina. Then an impact on inflation. How is inflation affected if there is an increase in taxes? Lancelot and Hung can have a go at that one. This one here, business location. So the actual decisions of a business. How might they be affected if there is a tax change, right? Specifically thinking about the location of a business. So if taxes were to increase, what would the effect be? If taxes were to decrease, what would the effect be, right? And I'm wanting you to explain it, what's happening. Now, this next one's a bit tricky. The impact on social behavior. How might people change their behavior if taxes decrease? You have to think a little bit carefully about that, right? And how might their behavior change if taxes were to increase? Incentives to work. So Lancelot and Hajna, all right? How might an increase in income tax affect your incentive to work? What might happen? And then I've got another one down here, impact on tax avoidance and tax evasion. How might an increase in tax impact or affect individuals who are attempting to avoid or evade paying taxes? And the last one here is about the distribution of wealth. So how might the distribution of wealth be affected if there is an increase in taxes? Oh, lots for you to go on. Now, yes, you're doing, I'd like you to work on this in teams, right? So you might like to create a document and share it amongst yourselves, right? So Brandon and Abu, for example, you might like to share a document. You might like to do it as a slide, right? Google slide. You know, I'm not limiting you to how you present your information. And then the idea is that in this column here, you're going to put the link to your answers in there. I'll make that bigger. Right, so that's where the link to your answers go in there as well. Now, yes, there are a couple of you who do more than one, right? So you do need to scroll down and see where you're at. Okay, and I've done that for a particular reason because I want to stretch you a bit more, all right? Now, if you get completely stuck on working this all out, then yes, by all means, there's Dr. Google that you can ask, but by all means, if you need, you know, you can email me and say, hey, Mr. David, what does this all mean? All right? But that's my plan for what I would like you to do to work out how taxes are going to impact on the overall economy. All right, so if I stop the sharing there and jump back to the meeting. Now, that's what I'd like you to do. Now, are there any particular questions right now? No? Clear as mud? All right, fantastic. Now, yes, please do note I doubled some of you up, so some of you are doing more than one task, okay? So that means you'll have perhaps 2 slides or 2 docs that you're working on at the same time, right? So I'd like you to work your way through that. Now, the rest of the session, if you could work your way through that and then submit it. Now, you might finish it by then, you might not, and you don't necessarily have to. I can't remember the date that I put for that one. Yeah, 20th of May. So you've got time to finish it. But the idea is the rest of the session, work on that. email me if you have any questions. Can I do mine alone? Then Lancelot can do one only instead of two for him. Yes. Yes. It was kind of an idea for me to stretch Lancelot so that he actually gets a bit more work. But yes, you can certainly, you negotiate that with each other. All right. If you want to do that, then negotiate that with them. Okay. But yes, the links to your results need to go into that doc so I can have a look through and see what you've done, but also so that the rest of you can look through, because I'm then going to want the rest of you to review what has been written by the other teams, all right? So that you've got a full and complete picture of how taxes, fiscal policy might affect the overall macroeconomy. All right, so get to work on that. If you have particular questions, you can send me an email. Otherwise, as we'd say in the land of my birth, hei kōnera, which means goodbye for now.
Thank you, Mr. David.
Thank you.